Dear viewers, wherever you are, hello and welcome to this new episode of your program, Out of the Box. This is part two, talking about national identity and the merging between national identity and religious identity or religious faith. Last time we talked about the idea, the concept itself, and the relation between economic and political hardships and the rise of this idea of merging and uniting national identity with religious identity. To delve deeper into the topic and to go and tackle different details, I'm really delighted to be accompanied again by the thinker and writer Ahmad Arsoum. Ahmad, hello once again to the program.
Hello again, Muhammad, and thank you so much for continuing this interesting topic with me. And I hope that our audience and your followers will be delighted with what we will discuss today as well.
Thank you very much. It's always a great pleasure to have you. So, last time, like we said, we talked about the general concept, the major idea. But today, let me ask you about if we would merge national identity with a religious identity. So, like, they are one and the same. So they're inseparable. So for you to have a specific nationality, you must have a specific faith. Then the imperative question would be, how about minorities and how about democracy? How about the rights of minorities? And what would democracy do in this case? Because in an ideal world, in a utopia, democracy is not the dictatorship of the majority. So how do you see this? Like, how do you see the merging of faith or religious identity with national identity and its effect on minorities and democracy?
Well, that's a very, very interesting topic, actually, and it's also very complicated and very diversified. So let's talk first about the relationship between national identity and religious identity, because many of citizens of the world in many regions, in many races, they consider that the religious identity is equivalent to the national identity, and both are together one unit. And that you can see this mainly in the countries in the Middle East who speak a certain language and they follow a certain religion. So they combine the fact of the religion and the language together and make the identity. You cannot see this in the Western world, for example, because they have the national identity is made by the land and the language and the history together, regardless of the religion that is practiced or followed in this region. And that's why I like always to separate or differentiate between national identity and religious identity. I have been discussing this before with many people, and I received lots of also aggressiveness from them. They said, no, our identity is our religion. And I insisted on my opinion as well, although we didn't reach any end because their perception was opposite to my understanding. But still, I'm sticking to my assumption or my belief that national identity is separate from religious identity. For example, it's very simple. We can live together in the same country. Like in Canada, for instance, we have how many identities here, religious identities? We have many. I mean, sometimes I hear things never heard before in my life about people following a certain dogma or ideology or religion. But still, we have one national identity, which is Canadian. And that, according to the Canadian system as well, we believe this is ideal. So people can be of different backgrounds, different religions, but still they have one Canadian identity. And this is more obvious in the States because the States, they have majority of different backgrounds, still they are American. And maybe they have more adherence to their national identity than any other country in the world with different types of people with different backgrounds. So the highest number of ethnic differences you can see in the States, for example, even maybe more than Canada, more than Australia. However, the one identity is American And then whatever people believe in, their ideologies, is something separate from the identity. So that's what we wanted to discuss first. Now we go to the idea of the majority and minority based on identity, whether religious or national. Again, Middle Eastern countries, they tend more to use the majority identity as whether it's national or religious as a weapon against the minorities, or as they suppress the minorities actually in the laws, in different positions in governments, in army, in military, in judicial systems. So this is common in many places when there is majority of certain ideology, of course, or actually or nationality. But sometimes it's the opposite as well, because I'll give you an example, small example, like Rwanda before the genocide. The Tutsi were the minorities. They governed the majority who are the Hutus. But that created huge anger and agony among the majority of the Hutus, and they turned against them and started to butcher them brutally. But on the other side, the majorities, when they are following a certain ideology or religion, they always use this power against the minorities. I wouldn't say, I cannot generalize, but in most countries, most regions, always minorities feel suppressed and oppressed by the majority, which they practice without undisclosed dictatorship on
Mhm.
the minorities.
And would you say that this call or for a merge or like an amalgam between religious identity and national identity, what fuels this? Is it fueled or induced by again some kind of ideology or faith, or is it just induced by fear?
Wow, that's something very actually interesting, because you can see that in many countries where there is a theological government, it's about fear. First of all, people would follow because of fear. It starts with the fear, and then it became a norm or a standard practice that the religion controls and runs the country, like we know in Iran. It's a very big example. And also, Iran now, actually, since we are speaking of Iran now, you can see that no matter how long it takes that the religion will govern the country, there is always a time that it should end, because it's not about minorities and majorities, it's about freedom. Because also, human beings, they prefer freedom above everything else, because we are born free and we will always be free as human beings. So the the theological government, or the theocratic state, actually, I would say the theocratic state uses fear to oppress its citizens. In some other regimes, it was the opposite as well, or not the opposite. It was a democratic or non-theocratic government takes the regime, and then they started to spread the idea that they are very religious people, and they would like to spread the religion among the country. And the reason why, because in most of the societies which are less in economy, less in education, they tended to more to follow religion and believe in it is as a savior. These countries, as we said now, that use the religion for how we say it, it's to create obedience, and obedience comes in a very soft way. So a leader of a country or a president elected, no matter what, comes and say, I am very religious man and for religion, and I use it in my governing. So most of the people of this place, they would follow and trust him because of that. Oh, he's a good man. Then we have to follow because he talks religion. And although he is not a clergy, he is not wearing or expressing any external forms of practicing religion. However, the narrative he presents to his people always carry this religious message hidden or even on the surface. That message says that I'm here to protect you by the name of the religion. and I'm here to take care of you. And let's follow together the religion. So this religion will help us to recover from our problems, economic and social, and even medical, whatever. So yes, it is both. It is can be used. Religious identity can be used in both theocratic regimes and non-theocratic regimes to make people follow, whether with fear or whether with uh, giving them the hope for a better future for the country.
Okay, if we take the example of the Inquisition, for example, and this is one of the most outstanding examples. So, Ferdinand and Isabel, the couple that led the liberation of Spain, and they started the expelling and forced deportation of non-Christians, and then the Inquisition started in Spain, then spread in other parts of Europe as well, and it is up to the church to determine how good you are as a Christian. So you might be Christian at heart and you believe that you're Christian, but you're not Christian enough, according to the church. And if you're not Christian enough, you'll face consequences. And these consequences might be fatal, actually. You might lose your life, or you might lose a limb, or something like that. So definitely it gave them a lot of authority and a lot of power to control the other subjects and so on. Now, not many years later, if we go to Germany, we find someone like Martin Luther, who grew up as a Catholic, as a member of the church, and then he rebelled. He became a dissident, and he was asked to repent, to recant, and he refused. And he wrote his list to the Emporium Sacrum Romanum, the Sacred Roman Emperor, and so on. So this led to a Reformation, and thereby Counter-Reformation, and so on. So do you see this as a pattern that would repeat itself continuously? So again, using Newton's law, for every action there is a reaction equal in magnitude but opposite in direction. So do you see that it would always backfire?
Yes, yes, indeed. It backfires. So whatever oppression you use against people, it backfires as well sometimes. But let's go back to the Inquisition because Inquisition is a very interesting point, actually. Started with the fear, as we said earlier. So the Pope in Rome was controlling the emperors and empresses of Europe, and they cannot make any decisions of war or going to trade or any occupation of other countries without the blessing and the permission from the Pope in Rome, of course. So he has the upper power because, again, his power is given to him by God. So God gave him the power to control and to decide, and that's how kings. In return, he also wants the kings and queens and emperors to be allies to him because it is a mutual relationship. It's a beneficial relationship. He gets fortune, money, and lands from the kings and royalties, and in return, he can give them the ideas how to control their people. So the Inquisition leaders who were priests and monks actually, they started to form their own militias. And that's where you start. Those militias are religious, very religious people chosen carefully by the leaders of the religion, and they were dictated and they were actually brainwashed that they are the protectors of the belief and the faith. That's how it started actually to have this kind of control on people by the fear of religion. And when you refer to Martin Luther at the same time, and then actually then the French came and started to get rid of the first country or the first people who have the enlightenment and started to have the renaissance in their ideas, and it comes with the philosophy and art or the thing. They started to get rid of this. Martin Luther was one of the big, also the early movements to reject this tyranny or this control and the atrocity of the church, actually. So that's, but what happened now in these regions that we talk about, Muhammad, that they moved on with this. Unfortunately, some countries still they are not moving on at all. In fact, like we mentioned in Iran, the Revolutionary Guard, which is their militia to protect the Islamic Republic, they are used to oppress and to kill its citizens. Because once the citizens realize that they do not want to follow this theocratic regime anymore, those leaders of the theocratic regime refuse the idea of losing this power. And now they are butchering them brutally, which
But you know, let's look at this part again if we talk about the Inquisition and whatnot. So let's remember a very important factor here, factor of science as well, because Martin Luther, when he called for Protestantism and protested
yeah,
against the status quo and so on, it coincided with printing press. And if it wasn't for the printing press, his ideas and the translation of the Bible and so on wouldn't have been that smooth. So the existence of the printing press played a pivotal role in spreading his ideology and his ideas. And again, his ideas never spread peacefully. Um, the remnants of this was seen until the, late 20th century with the war between Northern and Southern Ireland, Peace of Westphalia. Like, you had, like, it went through a lot of extremely bloody and brutal stages. So it didn't happen overnight. They didn't move on easily. They moved on the bodies of millions of innocent people from both sides.
yeah.
My question, is it inevitable? Must it be that bloody to move on?
Mm.
You know,
Unfortunately,
the,
yes.
the Protestants and Catholics went through an incredible amount of bloody wars.
Mm.
Even Catholics within themselves, even, like you had different sects within the sect, like sub-sects fighting within the same sect as well.
Yeah.
So, do you see this as inevitable? It must happen to all different religions and all different calls for uniting or merging between national identity and religious identity.
Well, apparently the history had showed us this is an inevitable situation. We have seen it. So you mentioned it from the 16th century, 15th century, till the 20th century, Northern Ireland and those islands. Now we see it in Iran as well. So we saw it in Iraq and still going on, and in Syria, where different sects from Islam they are fighting together. So, and again, as you said, it is an inevitable situation that there is always bloodshed to dominate the scene or actually to enforce your opinion on the others when it comes to religious identity. Because with national identity, there are also conflicts, and actually armed conflicts between people of the same, like civil wars. But however, with religion, it's more severe and takes longer time to be resolved because it comes with the core of the human beings, which is the belief. And the belief for the majority, 95% of the population of Earth, they believe in a kind of religion. And imagine that this religion is actually dictates their way of life. And for this, they have to sacrifice many things to keep the faith and keep this religion still reviving and going on. So again, I have to say something which I have said many times before, even in our during our previous discussions, that unfortunately there were more crimes and bloodshed done in the name of religions than in any other wars or any other conflicts.
Of course, other people might beg to differ, definitely,
Yes, I know.
because yeah,
But
because there have been a lot of bloodshed spilled in the name of also political ideology as well, and because of expansion, because of colonialism, because of many other things that were away from religion.
yes, but also no, but also they used the name of God for the genocides in North America.
Yes, of course, we had the
So,
pilgrims coming,
yeah, and
and
I
they
said
were
that more bloodshed was in the name of the religion or the name of a god.
what's really
So
ironic, of course, is that
yes,
the pilgrims escaped oppression in Europe,
yeah,
but again, there were a lot of mercenaries,
yes,
missionaries. I'm sorry, a lot of missionaries that came with the first settlers here as well.
yes,
And the First Nations were called heathen. They were called pagan,
yeah.
and of course, this continued again until the beginning of the 20th century with the residential schools, etc., etc.,
It
and
took a
so
different
on.
form. That's it.
Yes,
The
definitely.
oppression still exists in many places, but takes different forms.
And what are the long-term consequences of this? Like if theocracy or actually dictatorship that is sugar-coated in theocracy, what are the long-term consequences? What are the long-term effects of that on the people?
Unfortunately, it is a little bit of a dark assumption for
Mhm.
what I'm saying. And I'll say it like this. People in a certain country, let's say, assume it is Iran now, or Syria. I would go to Syria more because Iran has more of openness and enlightenment than any other countries in the, in the area. Syria. Now we have generations, different generations are born within this kind of theocratic oppression and theocratic regime. And now those people will, like the generation who is enlightened, will be disappearing. They will disappear. They will start to be swiped away. And uh, only generation that grows up seeing only religion is controlling will see this as a norm. So after 4 or 5 generations, there is no chance to return back to be a country that is run by democracy and without interfering religion with the state and with a civil country, not a theocratic country. So uh, as long as the system of the religious regime or oppression exists, there will be no chance on the long run because of this generation. I know this is very pessimistic look, but imagine someone after 50 years in Syria, a young man, talk to him about freedom of choice and freedom of religion and freedom of many things. He said, "What are you talking about? We don't know what you're talking about because they never tried it. They never saw how it is. Even with the technology and the internet and the connection and all whatever you can tell me, there is still always something called that the narrative of the country and the religious speeches tell them this images you see and this freedom is forbidden and it's against our belief. So we should not follow this. We should follow our system, our belief, our religion's way, our orthodox way, actually, as well, in whatever religion is. And that's why I feel that sometimes there is no hope for recovery for
Okay, do
this.
you think that the world would ever recover from that in reality? Because if we look deeper a little bit, like the Western Hemisphere is like is considered the role model for democracy and freedom and whatnot. But again, did religious nationalism really fade away? That is the a very important question because very frequently this term rises up that Western civilization was built on Judeo-Christian principles. We hear this from the leaders of great democracies and leaders. In Germany, we have the Christian Democratic Party, It's a conservative party called the Christian Democratic Conservative Party. We have crosses on the flag of England. We have on Switzerland. On all Scandinavian countries, they have crosses. And a country like Turkey, for example, is not welcome in the EU because the EU again is a set of countries that are built on the Judeo-Christian identity. So maybe no inquisition, maybe no strict rituals, but the sentiment is still there at heart.
Yes. Okay. That's very interesting because Europe, the Western Hemisphere, as you mentioned, and mainly Europe, um, after the World War II, by a few years, this kind of right-wing Christian uh, tendency disappeared. And there was lots of freedom and free of religion. And that's why also many religious institutes in Europe have shut down its doors. There's no followers, there's no practicing people in it. And that was until recent, actually. And we said earlier, every action has a reaction. Okay. If I am living in my free environment, I can do whatever I want. Then my neighbor comes to me, move in the next door, and start to do things that will stop my freedom a little bit. So he said to me, "Don't walk in front of my door because I cannot have the woman in the house see a stranger, for example. Or I don't want you to have a party because the noise and the music is not fitting my beliefs." You are now creating a new wave of religious identity in a place that they have got rid of it for a long time ago. What is the reaction to it? Because you have human rights, you have also still freedom. You cannot go and talk to this neighbor and tell him, no, you're wrong. You have to do whatever I want to do, because you can't say this in a democratic, free country that believes in human rights. So what I would do in this other one, he would start to follow a religion, or praise a religion that he can use as a flag against his flag. So if this neighbor did not wave this religious flag when he came to become neighbor, the other one will never have used it.
Okay, but before the arrival of immigrants and the big wave of immigrants that came from, let's say, the Middle East and, South Asia and so on, uh, many years before, these crosses were still on the flags, and the king again was also the head of the church, and there are a lot of bloodshed and wars based on religious identity. So, using the immigrants from extra conservative countries from Middle East and Asia as a scapegoat will not always work, really, because all of these things were there in an extreme way. The
Yeah.
symbols were there, connection of religion and state were there as well. The king is the head of the church. The cross is there, and going to the church and coronation also being blessed and by the church or by the religious leader was a tradition before those people came. So the it tells you that this religious identity, like the faith faded away. Faith faded away. But this sense of belonging never faded.
Well, that's what we're saying. They are not reacting to this wave of immigrants because of faith, or because of religious belief. It's about a weapon or a tool to respond to the other side. But I go back a little bit to the crosses and the head of church and all that. I have written an article some time ago rejecting the King of England to be also King of Canada, for example, because I see no use of monarchies in Europe anymore. And lots of modern thinkers and lots of waves now are calling that this is obsolete. The old generation, the conservative generation, and the right wings, they always think that this is the symbol of the country and we have to keep the tradition. So the king, the head of church, the flag, all of they are group of traditions and heritage. They like to have it and keep it. And every country, by the way, even if you go to a country like Egypt, pyramids is something that they cannot take from any currency or any painting or any place because that's a symbol of this country. They love it. Although pyramids were built by people in the eyes of religion, they were not believers. But still, anything that the Egyptian built, the ancient Egyptians built, is now respected and used as a symbol all over the world to represent Egypt. But however, in Europe, for instance, those yes, they use the cross. They use many things to show that there is the heritage of the church, but they don't believe in it. They don't practice it even. And when we talk about crosses on flags, most of the flags, the crosses does not mean that this is Christianity. It means lots of geographical directions and also dominance on land. And the example is for the Swiss flag, for example, it is not a cross, it's a plus sign, and it stands for on the same distance from all its cantons or its regions. That's how the meaning
But
of
how
it.
about the cross of Saint George, for example, on the
In
English
which one?
flag?
On the English flag?
On the English flag, yes.
Yeah, but English flag,
It, it is
I
a
say
it is a cross, and Saint George is one
yes,
of
no,
the
no, I
most
didn't say,
prominent
I
saints.
said some of them. I said some of them,
Yes.
they do not represent a religious background or
And
religious
England is
meaning.
considered one of the cradles of modern democracy as well.
Again, as I said earlier, it is kind of proud of identity of the past. And the newer generations will not get to believe in this anymore. We are talking about people if they don't know the meaning of these things, of the cross of St.
And
George, of
annually,
the
during Christmas time, for example, Easter time, there is a speech by the monarch, and it's religious in nature. So they don't just say like Merry Christmas or like Happy Easter. No, they talk about, the things from the Bible. So it's a very religious speech as well. So because some people might see the same now as happening in countries of the Middle East, it's gradually. So abiding by, like, if we look at a country like Saudi Arabia today, is very, very different from what it was before, like a couple of years ago. So the grip of the, I wouldn't say clergy, but like, the imams or like whatever, the grip of the religious authority has weakened tremendously. And people are not forced or obliged to exercise, like religion or to follow rituals and so on. And it's becoming weaker by the day. But people will still argue that the bigotry and the sentiment will remain inside. Just like the bigotry and the sentiment remained inside Europe. And with any turbulence, it comes back again. It's just like the genie. You put the genie in the jar, but any shake, any turbulence or shake, the genie comes back again. This genie never dies. Do you believe that this genie can ever die? Do you think it can ever die? Or
I
it
don't
just
think it will die.
fades away or takes
I
a
don't think
different
it will
shape?
die. But that's what I said earlier. Unfortunately, this will never die. The religious identity will be there forever based on many facts, as we said, that any society is not developing the right way to get rid of the religious identity. And those one who started to bring it back from the past and polish it and put it back to the front again, this is again kind of, I'm not saying that this is something that I believe, I know it happening, but I don't believe in it. I don't appreciate it at all.
It's a setback. It's a
Any
setback.
kind of
Yes.
religious identity, well, it's a setback because also maybe like we said in the previous episode, that sometimes economic and social conditions affect it. That could be one of the reasons, and but that needs another big study on which of these things could affect the religious identity. Could be economic, historical, social, many things, educational. We have so many things, but I don't think that the tendency to keep a religious identity will disappear from mankind. I don't
And
think it will disappear.
um,
And
yes, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
no, no, it's okay. I'm saying that even no matter what, how the religion is, because we are talking about Europe, Middle East. They are the Abrahamic religions, the three Abrahamic religions. But if you go even to the Asia, where they have much more religions, and also you find that there are lots of discrepancies and arguments about the religions in country like India, for example,
Yeah, Hindus
in
versus
Southeast Asia,
Sikhs
all of it.
versus Muslims and so on. Yes.
Yes, they're always in conflict. And even about when I'm discussing also Hinduism itself, they have so many ways in it. And
Yes,
within these
definitely.
ways, sorry?
Definitely, yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
yes, yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
true.
So I thought you were asking me a question. So
No, no, no.
and you see this, and you go to even places, even in Christianity itself, there are so many ways as well.
Of
And by the
course.
way,
Of course.
in the Orthodox, they don't believe in Catholic or Protestants. They think they are deviating from the right religion, the right way, the truth. Protestants make fun of Catholic. So it is very ridiculous that
Yeah,
the
and there are subgroups in the subgroup. So like
groups, yes,
there isn't anything called like one Sunni Muslim group or one Shiite Muslim group or one Protestant Muslim group or even Orthodox. Like there's
yes,
Eastern
yes.
Orthodox, there's Oriental Orthodox, like Jews again. It's not one kind of Jews. There are different kinds of
They've
Jews
cut off
as
Jews
well.
as well. And
And
yes,
and et cetera, et cetera. Same for
yes,
Hindus, same for Buddhists, and
yes.
so on.
Even the world was surprised when they saw some footage of the Orthodox Jews in Jerusalem. They were fighting the police because they are against the war in Gaza, because they
Yes.
believe that their belief is that if God wants to give them the land, it will be given to them with peace, not with war.
Definitely. Yeah, there are different groups
So
that think
even
in
we, because most of the Middle East, everybody is saying that it is in the Jewish religion. No, within the Jewish religion, there are people who do not want the war as well.
we saw in the with the war in Ukraine, Ukraine is mostly Orthodox. They're mostly Eastern Orthodox. But after the war, they started celebrating Christmas on the 25th instead of January the 7th. So again, religious and national identity, like they're shifting.
Because this is a kind of rejection to the Russian war. So the
Exactly.
Russians celebrate the 7th of January. So now your celebration became my bad day for me. So I choose another day.
So again, like in an ideal world, you think that you cannot mix these two. Like religion is much more superior and supreme to politics. So regardless if we are friends or foes, my religion is still the same. If I follow the Julian calendar, I'll follow it. If I follow the Gregorian calendar, I follow it because at the end of the day, 25th or the 7th, it's more or less the same. It's just a different calendar. But it does happen.
And that's the unfortunate thing. This is
Yeah,
something that lots of intellectuals and thinkers and people of enlightenment and progressive people, they don't like that because it kills humanity, because it blinds people about the truth that they can deal with each other as human beings, not as about the religion. And to get rid of this fact, I don't think I will live to see it. I hope so, but I don't think I will live to watch this happening.
definitely. It's
It's a sad
brings
thing, actually, Muhammad. It's a sad thing because after all what humanity have suffered from because of religion, they are still following, doing the same mistakes again.
brings us back to the famous song of Imagine, like a world with
Well,
yeah,
you always brighten my eyes and make them shine when you mention this song, Imagine, because it's a great song. It's a great song, and that reflects all the ideas and thoughts of the people, the intellectual people, and the civilized people as well.
So, last but never least, um, is there sort of a middle ground? So, is it either theocracy or complete secularism? Is there a middle ground, like um, more of a is there anything such as uh, um, I don't know, a secular state with a religious flavor, or
You
a,
see, it is hard to find out a
yeah,
middle ground.
it's so
we
hard to find
we
that
cannot
actually.
define it even. We cannot find the words to define it because yes, I would love to see a secular state with people who are in follow religions and are uh, acting normal and everybody is concerned with their religion only. They don't have to interfere with others' religions or
But
don't
but
think
but
that.
humans never became secular though. Like, although states have become secular,
Well,
and
we have some examples. I cannot
and
generalize.
some humans are, but there is always this group that is beyond repair. In
I can give
every
you
nation, there is this group that is beyond repair. You can, no matter what, no matter how secular the state would try to be, those
but
people at heart, especially during the times of hardship. You
I
really
still
want to know someone who, you really want to know the true colors of someone? Test them during hardship.
yes.
During times of hardship, this sentiment rises again.
I do agree, but I want to mention two things just jumped in my mind now. China and Japan. Those two countries, they are non-religious at all, and still they have only one identity, which is national identity. And they don't have such kind of conflicts or disputes or search for mutual grounds. They have other problems, yes, but even on the religious level, Japan, for instance, there is no such thing exists in the culture at all now. Although they have a religion, which is Shinto, but it is now for history. It's part of the history, part of to visit as a tourist their
It's
temples,
folkloric. Like they still
folkloric.
keep a lot
Yes,
of
but
Shinto and Buddhist traditions,
they don't.
but used in a folkloric manner or
Yes,
in folkloric celebrations and things
yeah.
like that.
And even China, when they started to suppress Muslims of China, it was more about territory and governance, not about religion, because the Chinese army, the Chinese government, they have no religion, and it's part of their constitution. And they never fought because if any religious movement happens in China, it will be suppressed by the government as well. So those two countries are example of absence of religious identity. And
But some people might argue that they are anti-religious. Like secularism is not anti-religious because there are a lot of stories about, demolishing churches or mosques or breaking crosses that happen
yes,
in China, for instance. So they are the same thing that used to happen in the Soviet Union. So it was like no religion. Religion is the opium of the masses, and atheism was a subject that was taught in school and was even taught in university in many countries, including countries as far as Albania, for example.
see, right?
They were taught atheism. But what we're talking about is a real secular state where everybody's really secular, even during hardship. Because
Ju-
if secularism went so deep and touched people at heart, then even during times of hardship, they wouldn't bring this thing up. But unfortunately, whenever times become hard economically, this comes out always. Religion.
So then we have to create our own utopia. That's the only solution. Because as you said, there is no place that you can have pure secular state or pure secular way of running a country. So, and this is very pessimistic, Muhammad, and that's that it's against my directions and of mind. I like
It's
to,
unfortunately it might be the bitter truth.
yes.
Truth is usually bitter, but it is what it is. We definitely hope for the best, and yeah, like because secular state is seems like the ideal solution, really, because it's not in any shape or form secularism against religion.
But if okay, I want like to say something here. Let's assume a hypothetical assumption that there is a government in the Western Hemisphere decided to have true secular state and rejection of any other religious slogans or identities. And people who want to follow a religion, they have to follow it in peace to themselves and do not interfere in others' lives. If this could happen, then we have a secular state. But the problem is, and we'll talk back to the same point. France, for example, lots of immigrants from North Africa. They have their way of life. They started to impose their way of life on the people who were secular before. Now, the only way they cannot stand in front of them and tell them, oh, don't practice your religions here because we are secular. No, they will fight them with a weapon that is is not the right weapon, which is the religion. So again, action reaction. It's the same thing. You cannot fight religion with secularism. You cannot fight secularism with religion, unfortunately.
Absolutely, it's a vicious cycle, unfortunately. Matt, thank you very much for being with us today, and always really thank you very much for being with
It's
us.
always my pleasure. Thank you, Muhammad.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
And dear viewers, if we were to come to a conclusion here, um, I would say imagine again, like the very famous song for the great John Lennon. Whether you agree with him or disagree, that's a different story. But he was definitely a great artist. And the real question is, and are faith and religion synonymous? Are they interchangeable? Because faith is believing in the supernatural. It's believing in something that is not tangible. Because if something is tangible and obvious, then it doesn't need faith, really. I cannot say that I have faith that I'm talking to you right now because I'm facing the camera and, and I can see myself on the screen. So it doesn't need any faith here. It's an established fact. But if you have faith in a God that you never saw, if you have faith in angels or like demons, whatever, things that are supernatural or metaphysical beings, then this is considered to be faith. And again, like the attributes of the supreme creator, I think worldwide are almost the same. In details, people might differ, but this creator is omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, invincible. So, if this creator has all of these attributes, then I see it as cognitive dissonance, really, for me to try to do his work for him. So I will get rid of those who don't believe in you, God, because you're impotent. But you're omnipotent and invincible at the same time. How? Or maybe because you don't know them, but you're omniscient at the same time. How again? So I think the real question at core here is um, are those people really faithful? Because if they are really faithful, they would believe that this creator, this all-knowing, almighty creator, is fully aware of those who believe and disbelieve, and He's still giving them the oxygen to breathe, the sun. He's still giving them food and granting them success in life. So definitely it's his will. So how dare I or anyone else defy his will if I believe in him? It's again, I think it's the major plague of humanity is cognitive dissonance and again psychological projection. So it's never me, it's always you. Dear viewers, until we meet again, I hope you have a very pleasant time. Thanks for watching.